in San Diego and across the nation tonight.
Andrew Bowen in downtown San Diego, where hundreds of people are marching for a $15 federal minimum wage and a number of other economic and social justice issues they're ready to start fighting for under our President Donald Trump.
I don't feel my pain at all. I feel awesome. This is great. What is this stuff? You know, this is awesome.
This stuff is kratom, and it's controversial. We'll take an in-depth look at the debate over the drug. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Hundreds of people rallied in San Diego today as part of a national day of protest for workers' rights. They want the federal minimum wage to go up to $15 an hour. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has been following some of the protesters as they march through downtown San Diego. Andrew?
Hi, Ebony. Well, right now we're at the intersection of Park Boulevard and Broadway. As you can see, there are hundreds of people here marching. This march was originally part of the Fight for 15 movement, which started as a movement run by fast food workers in New York State fighting for a $15 minimum wage. This march, however, is about far more than just a minimum wage. In California, we already have a minimum wage law that's going to be moving up toward $15 an hour by 2022. But a lot of the signs here are touching on issues of economic justice, unions' rights, workers' rights, environmental justice. We've heard talk about the Dakota Access Pipeline. Also, social justice issues. We've heard Black Lives Matter. We've heard the name mentioned of Alfred Alongo. That's the unarmed black man who was shot and killed by an El Cajon police officer. This march tonight is about far more than just minimum wage. It's about building a whole movement and sustaining that movement under President Donald Trump. I think a lot of people here are really worried about the next 2 and 4 years under a Republican Congress and a Republican president. They see a lot of these issues of social, economic, and environmental justice as going to be very difficult to fight for, and they're getting ready for that fight under President Donald Trump. Reporting from downtown San Diego, Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Thanks, Andrew. There have been dozens of arrests at similar protests around the country. 40 people, in fact, were arrested in Los Angeles when they blocked a downtown intersection. Lawmakers in Washington say they've come up with a compromise to help some California National Guardsmen. These troopers were told they had to repay big re-enlistment bonuses they never should have gotten in the first place. The deal calls on the Pentagon to forgive the money unless the soldiers knew they shouldn't have gotten it. It's part of a defense bill that goes before the House on Friday. San Diego home prices continue to climb, but at a slower rate than many other markets. Chula released its index report today. It compares home sale prices as of September. Home prices in San Diego are 5.3% higher compared to the same time last year. Overall, 20 major real estate markets have surpassed their pre-recession peaks set 10 years ago. They include Seattle, Portland, and Denver. Mark Goldman is a real estate lecturer at San Diego State University. He says San Diego's slower climbing home values is more sustainable.
The value property is probably coming back. That's good for the stability of neighborhoods. The number one reason people would default on their mortgages is because the mortgage was in excess of the value of the property. Well, now that property values have recovered, we're seeing less of that. And that's a positive sign because foreclosures and short sales hurt the value of everybody's home.
Goldman thinks home appreciation will slow down in San Diego, but says with low interest rates, now is a good time to buy if the buyer plans to stay long-term for 5 or more years. The San Diego Convention Center helped pump more than $1 billion into the local economy last fiscal year. That's up about $40 million from the year before. The report from the Convention Center Corporation says more than 824,000 people attended meetings and trade shows. They directly spent more than $650 million on things like lodging, food and drink, car rentals, and shopping. That's the highest amount since 2008. No surprise. Comic-Con had the biggest impact at $140 million, twice as much as the runner-up. Construction begins next month on a new major project to expand Interstate 5 and the railway lines up the North County coastline. KPBS North County Bureau reporter Allison St. John says the North Coast Corridor program has been more than a decade in the making and is being called a model for the future.
It's been more than 40 years since major improvements were made on this stretch of I-5. Dozens of agencies gathered to celebrate the groundbreaking of the North Coast Corridor program. This is more than simply a freeway widening exercise, but right now the main way people commute from San Diego to North County and back is by car. So Laurie Berman, the director of Caltrans in San Diego, says one of the first things people will notice is construction crews beginning work on new carpool lanes that will stretch 14 miles from Solana Beach to Carlsbad.
It won't be long before cranes, bulldozers, concrete barriers, and orange cones become the new part of this landscape. It's temporary, but it may seem like it's forever. Traffic is going to get worse in the coming months. I'm just trying to set your expectations here. So we're asking for your patience, and your planning is going to be really important.
Ron Roberts, chair of SANDAG, the agency that plans transportation in San Diego, says at the same time as new road bridges are being built across the lagoons, a new railway bridge will be built to make room for a second railway line where only one exists currently.
That investment's very, very important to us, because we will be able to, at some point, double-track nearly 97% of the coastal rail line. That allow us to increase the number of trains, the frequency of trains, and it'll make taking the rail competitive with using the highway.
Gabriel Boer of the California Coastal Commission says the project is a model for a new comprehensive approach to improving roads, rail lines, bike paths, and the environment.
Going forward, this synergistic approach taking place here at San Alejo Lagoon will be replicated all along North Coast Corridor, with hundreds of acres of enhanced and preserved coastal habitat, miles of new bike and pedestrian connections, and a host of improvements to the highway and rail infrastructure to encourage alternate modes of transportation.
This first phase of the North Coast Corridor project that broke ground today will take 5 years to complete. Allison St. John, KPBS News.
Commuters who want to plan around the construction can get updates on keepsandiegomoving.com/buildncc. Residents in Chula Vista are looking to fix their roads with a half-cent sales tax increase. They passed it earlier this month. The revenue from Measure P is expected to pay for a long list of projects. Now the City Council is putting together a plan for exactly how to spend the extra money. They're set to vote next week on the first set of financing rules. The tax is expected to bring in about $165 million in the first 10 years. Kristin Gaspar says her historic win to join the San Diego County Board of Supervisors is just now sinking in. Today, I spoke to her about transitioning from mayor of Encinitas to the 5th Republican on the Board of Supervisors after unseating Democrat Dave Roberts. On election night, Roberts had a 3% lead, but Gaspar pulled ahead thanks to thousands of late-counted provisional ballots.
We were fighting hard to run an effective campaign. I out-fundraised my opponent, at least in every reporting cycle, and really worked hard to build a network of support behind me. So I'm very thankful.
Gaspar's support includes the Lincoln Club of San Diego, a political action group that says it finances business-friendly candidates. District 3 includes Del Mar, Carmel Valley, and Interstate 15 from Terrasana to Escondido. The race for the 49th Congressional District was finally called yesterday for incumbent Representative Darrell Issa, and now his opponent is looking ahead to the next election. Democrat Doug Applegate says he's going to run again in 2018. In a written statement today, he thanked his supporters and said that as a Marine colonel, he knows the hardest fights take a couple of battles. California's public universities and colleges are asking President-elect Donald Trump to keep DACA. That's the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program created by President Obama. School leaders sent a letter to Trump today asking him to keep the program so the thousands of DACA students at their schools can stay. DACA often offers protection from deportation for some people brought into the country illegally when they were children. A new San Diego study finds patients who can't remember what they did just moments before can still use a map. KPBS science reporter Dave Wagner tells us why the researchers say this finding comes as a surprise.
Patients with damage to the hippocampus have trouble remembering things. This is a part of the brain that's crucial for memory, and it has also been thought to play an important role in navigating through space. But in their new study, local researchers found that wasn't totally true. In an experiment, they had patients use a map to follow a path along a series of floor markings in their lab. They found that the memory-impaired patients with damage to the hippocampus could use a map just as well as patients without such damage. UC San Diego neuroscience professor Larry Squire led the study.
What we've learned is that the ability to navigate is separate from the ability to form new memories.
Squire says this study is part of a larger attempt to understand how the brain creates memory so that memory impairments might one day be treatable. David Wagner, KPBS News.
Warm afternoons followed by cold nights for San Diego this week. Shanae Shocker has more in tonight's forecast.
Across much of the Southwest, the wet weather has really begun to die down, and that also includes down here in Southern California. We still have a couple of snow showers out towards the area of the Four Corners. That's definitely going to continue over the and through tonight, but around Southern California, the San Diego area, we had a couple of snow flurries out towards the mountain regions, but we're looking mostly dry for tonight, and that's going to bring us some clear skies here in the metro area. 47 degrees for your low, so not too cold outside. That's actually nice, but if we head inland and in towards the mountains, we're definitely seeing these temperatures begin to drop. 30 degrees out in Mount Laguna, and then we're looking at Oceanside, 36 and 44 in Chula, Vista. So definitely still staying pretty mild down south. As we head into our Wednesday, chilly conditions do continue with a ridge of high pressure. That's going to bring us some pretty decent weather moving through. We do have an area of low pressure ushering on shore Tuesday. That's going to continue to bring some rain as well as snow up to the northwest. But this system not quite making it far enough south to really be bringing us any wet weather ahead, unfortunately, for the drought as far as that's concerned. Take a look at your 5-day forecast for the coast. Plenty of sunshine in store. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. Sitting in the 60s across the board. Our overnight lows not too bad either. We're in the 30s, so it's definitely cooler, but 41 degrees by Sunday, and we're back at 70 degrees for our high on Sunday as well. Great weekend ahead of us. Make some plans to get outdoors. Really enjoy that time. And as we head inland, temperatures dropping into the 60s for your Thursday, but we'll keep the mostly sunny conditions as well. Going to be quite warm over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, sitting in the mid-70s. We can't complain about that. We'll definitely take it. All right, into the mountains we go, and it is cooler, but we are on a warm-up. So heading towards Friday, 38 degrees. We'll have some breezy conditions in store as well. These overnight lows heading from Thursday into Friday, we're below freezing here, sitting in the mid-20s, but we'll be on a warm-up back up into the low to mid-50s by Sunday. So overall, not too bad out there. Maybe on Friday or Thursday into Friday night, we could be seeing some cooler conditions as well as maybe some slick conditions if there's any water out on the roads. In the deserts, however, we're pretty steady here. We're in the 60s across the board. Overnight sitting in the 30s as well. We'll climb back up to 73 for our high on Sunday and 43 for our low. For KPBS News, I'm Shanae Shocker.
Is it a dangerous drug or a healing herb? It's called kratom. It's banned in San Diego, and the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration has set its sights on banning it nationwide. KPBS reporter Maya Trabolsi looks into the reasons why and what it could mean for the people who use it to manage pain.
Vicodin, OxyContin, Tramadol.
Aaron Walker lists the medications he once used for pain.
My most recent prescription of Neurontin was something like 300 pills, and I was supposed to take 4 of them 3 times a day.
He says the prescriptions worked for a while, but not always.
You've gone through all this stuff, you're in pain still, what do? Well, they continue to medicate you because you're in pain.
An athlete in college, and then a mechanic in the U.S. Navy.
When you're on deployment, you got to do a lot of stuff. You're working long hours, you're lifting, dropping things, moving things.
Moving things like heavy equipment, resulting in herniated discs and sciatica.
I sat in the waiting room for 2.5 hours in excruciating pain in a wheelchair.
Aaron started seeking alternative treatment for his pain. He says he found his answer in a botanical.
I don't feel my pain at all. I feel awesome. This is great. What is this stuff? This is awesome.
It's called kratom, a plant grown in Southeast Asia and used for centuries in that region to treat fatigue, pain, and anxiety. The plant leaves are dried and powder milled and can be consumed in different ways. Aaron compares the sensation to wrapping himself in a warm blanket.
Tear the scale, and I measure it out. 3.95 on the dot. Some OJ, and then I drink it all down. When it washes over you, you feel energized, you feel relaxed, you feel the pain kind of melt away, and everything's okay.
Kratom has two main compounds, mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine, that stimulate receptors in the brain like opiates. Some former opiate users say it can even mitigate withdrawal symptoms. But the Drug Enforcement Administration says kratom needs to be regulated. On August 31st, they filed an emergency action to make kratom a Schedule I substance, a category reserved for the most dangerous drugs. DEA Special Agent Amy Roderick says kratom is considered a danger to public health.
And that's what we found here. We decided, this was enough of a threat. People were getting addicted, that we needed to schedule it.
Following a DEA notice, a nationwide ban takes 30 days to go into effect.
I lost myself because of medicines.
The kratom community used that time to hold rallies. They started a Save Kratom online movement and collected over 140,000 signatures, including from 51 members of Congress and 11 senators, appealing to the DEA to delay finalizing their decision.
The DEA has since withdrawn its notice of intent and opened up a public comment period which closes on December 2nd. At that point, they can either follow through with their emergency ban and ban kratom for a minimum of 2 years, or they can wait for more science on the substance.
Let's say something came back from the FDA and they said, hey, wait a minute, this cures cancer. Then we could remove it down to a lower schedule, Schedule 2, 3, 4, 5, where all the prescription drugs are.
Kratom is still legal in most states, including California. It was recently banned in the city of San Diego when it was included in an ordinance passed that also banned synthetics used to make spice and bath salts. Mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine, the main alkaloids in kratom, were on the itemized list.
I believe this ordinance is going to be a model for other cities to follow and help set the standard throughout the state.
The city of Temecula drafted a similar ordinance, and its city council was ready to vote on the measure. Aaron Walker spoke at that meeting.
Mr. Walker, good evening, sir.
I took some this evening. I am not hallucinating. I'm not running around. I'm not aggressive or crazy. This is something that I take because I have a back issue.
I don't know anything about kratom, to be quite honest with you, and because I don't know about it, I'm hesitant to vote to ban it.
The kratom ban was voted down, a small victory for kratom consumers. But the DEA says self-medicating with an unregulated substance is not the solution to pain.
This is an addictive substance, just like any other drug. And when you start putting these things into your body, you're going to become addicted. I know that people say, oh, it helps opioid addiction, but it in itself is an opioid.
I think that anything that can cause dependence is potentially harmful.
Dr. Richard Clark is head of toxicology at UCSD Medical Center.
To me, that's probably the most dangerous aspect of this, that if we made it more available, that people would use it like an opiate, overuse it like an opiate, become dependent on it like they do with an opiate, and then have to go through withdrawal or not be able to stop it.
Some people report withdrawal from kratom use is as easy as getting off caffeine. Others say withdrawal can bring panic attacks and excessive sweating. One former user blogged that it was as addictive as Vicodin and Adderall and called it the king of misery.
I don't think people know how this drug really works. I think that from a pure science perspective, from a pure potential perspective, this drug has potential. And I think that if there's something about this compound that gives you pain relief without the respiratory depressant effects that we see with the other opiates, that would be a breakthrough. But there's clearly not enough science to know that yet.
But the science is catching up. Drug companies are aggressively researching new non-addictive pain medications that don't make you stop breathing, which is the leading cause of death in opiate abuse. One promising compound is mitragynine from kratom. Kratom advocates support the study because they say it will save lives, but find the timing curious.
well, oh my gosh, here comes a new patented drug, Schedule II, right on the market, and we will prescribe it to you, and it'll help with your opiate withdrawals that we caused in the first place.
Finding that drug, which will be a Nobel Prize winning drug, that helps you with opiate receptors and doesn't have either tolerance, dependence, or withdrawal, and doesn't make you stop breathing, that somebody is going to make a lot of money off one day.
Could it be kratom?
It's possible. It's possible.
After experiencing the pain-relieving benefits of kratom, Aaron Walker joined the United Kratom Association as an advocate and now sells the product for an online distributor. If kratom does become illegal in the U.S., some kratom consumers worry they will relapse on their drug of choice, or, like Aaron, continue to find a way to use it.
If kratom is banned, I will continue using it, absolutely.
You won't go back to prescription medication?
No, nope, won't do it.
Maya Trabulsi, KPBS News.
KPBS video journalist Katie Chula helped produce that story. The American Kratom Association estimates there are between 2 and 5 million kratom consumers in the U.S. This is based on the amount of kratom being imported.
I'm John Yang. On the next News Hour, a look at charter schools and the controversy surrounding their expansion within African American communities. That's Tuesday on the PBS News Hour.
California is taking its fight against global warming to the farm. AP reporter Terry Che says the state is targeting greenhouse gases produced by dairy cows and other livestock.
It's milking time at New Hope Dairy in California's Central Valley. Each of these cows produce about 8 gallons of milk a day, helping to make California the nation's largest dairy state. But they also produce something else. Cattle and other livestock are major sources of methane, a greenhouse gas many times more potent than carbon dioxide.
So if we can reduce emissions of methane, we can really help to slow global warming. It's the second most important greenhouse gas.
That's why Governor Jerry Brown recently signed legislation that requires dairy farms to reduce methane emissions 40% by 2030.
So there's a real opportunity here to get very significant emissions reductions at fairly low cost and actually in a way that we think can provide economic benefits to farmers and the local communities around dairies.
We harvest the methane gas.
California regulators want farmers to use methane digesters like this one. It captures methane from manure and converts it into electricity.
Our philosophy was we wanted to be sustainable. We wanted to make sure that we were doing all we could to decrease our carbon footprint.
Methane is also released when cows burp and pass gas, which is why regulators are also looking at making changes to what cattle eat. But California dairy farmers say the additional regulations and expenses will hurt business when they're already struggling with 5 years of drought and rising labor costs.
It just makes it more challenging. So we're continuing to lose dairies. Dairies are going out of business. Dairies are moving out of state to places where these costs don't exist.
New Hope Dairy already has a methane digester, but co-owner Arlen Van Groningen says it's only possible because of a partnership with the local utility, which operates the system. Otherwise, he couldn't afford one.
You know, the bottom line is it's going to negatively impact the economics in the California dairy industry.
State officials say they're committed to making sure the new rules work for dairies and the environment. A model for fighting climate change on the farm. Terry Che, Associated Press, Galt, California.
With the after Thanksgiving shopping blitz of Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday over, a San Diego internet company helped celebrate Giving Tuesday downtown today. KPBS video journalist Memo Sevilla brings us this story.
We are Recovery Brands, and we came out today as part of Giving Tuesday because we recognize such an amazing opportunity to get our team together and to really connect with our communities. And we are filling care packages that we will then distribute to downtown homeless populations. We have, basic necessities like soap and gloves. We also have socks, which obviously, mean a lot to the individuals receiving them.
And if you finish in your area and you still have bags left, explore other areas of downtown. There's plenty of people that are in need.
Let's do it. We're going down Park.
Well, we actually are, getting out there and walking around the neighborhoods, and, we just know how important it is to make that human connection. In doing so last year, I know that certainly our team felt that that was their favorite part of the day, was getting out there, meeting people in our communities, again, who are struggling, and being able to chat with them and to talk to them.
Hi, how are you? Would you like a bag?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Here you go, sir. You're very welcome.
Having the opportunity to meet people who are willing to help, it provides them that hope, and sometimes just that seed of hope is something that they need to maybe go seek help, to go ask for resources and get the help that they need.
Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, Balboa Park is getting ready for December nights this weekend. Tomorrow, we'll show you how the park is preparing for the best holiday festival. And on Midday Edition, the Mexican government launches a new program aimed at Mexican immigrants in the U.S. They call it Estamos Contigo, meaning we're with you. That's tomorrow at noon at KPBS Radio, on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.